Howdy everybody, thank you for joining me today on my Poo Tip Tuesday, and in today's video we're going to answer a couple of live questions that you guys may have, and also I'm going to go over a couple of different questions that people ask me, including what is going on with conditions like candida overgrowth, low stomach acid, things like that. Number 2, we'll talk about why do you have pain in your gut, what could be the cause for that. Number 3, we'll talk about what do you do for a hiatal hernia. Number 4, we'll talk about COVID-19 and that 15% rule in the state of Texas. And number 5, we will talk about what is going on with gluten. So for those guys who are joining for the first time, my name is Dr. Islam, and yes, I'm an actual poop doctor. Every Tuesday around this time, I do a Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live, where I go live to answer questions you guys may have. Now, a couple of ground rules. Number 1, let me know in the comments, number 1, where are you watching this from? And if you're watching live or on the replay, Sean, it is good seeing you. Thank you for watching today. And Cruz, it is good seeing you as well. Thank you for watching on the live stream. Also, let me know as well if you're watching this on the live or on the replay and where you're watching this from. Number 2, I cannot answer any personal medical questions you guys may have. I don't want to lose my license. You don't want me to lose my license. I can answer legitimate questions you guys may have. And number 3, if you want to have a question that for me to answer potentially on a Poop Tip Tuesday, and you don't want to do it live, subscribe to my weekly newsletter. I'll put a link in the comments down below where you can get all the great poop tip information that you can get straight into your inbox. So I hope you guys are staying warm. It is cold outside here in Lubbock, Texas. It is snowing. The school shut down today. Oh my goodness! So what happens when you get just a little bit of snow in a place that is not used to having snow. So let us start off with a very good question. Veronica, it's good to see you. Thank you for watching on today's live video as well. So let's start off with the very first question that I got here, which is, so Dr. Islam, I've heard about issues like candida overgrowth, low stomach acid. What is going on and what is the truth behind it? So I get this a lot, and I'm sure if you guys search things about this, there are a ton of social media posts about low stomach acid, candida overgrowth, stuff like that. So let me just tell you, number 1, if you see somebody talking about this a lot, I can tell you they don't know what they're talking about. So a lot of people talk about candida overgrowth, a lot of people talk about low stomach acid, and they talk about ways to help get rid of candida, flush your system, improve your stomach acid. The main issue is that we do not know a lot of answers to a lot of these conditions. So I base a lot of my information I give you guys based on actual research, based on evidence, based on things that has science behind it. I don't want to give you my opinion because my opinion doesn't matter if there's no good evidence behind it. I could say for candida overgrowth, eat dirt, it's fantastic. And I don't want you to do that because there's no evidence behind that. So let's first break down candida overgrowth. So a couple things. Number 1, we are realizing there may be a condition for some people called small intestinal fungal overgrowth. Very controversial, and not a lot of people believe in this, and we don't have good evidence for that. But we do think that there are some people that could have an overgrowth of some fungus. What that means, what are the clinical consequences of that? Can we test for this? All this is up in the air, but more importantly, we don't have a lot of good evidence behind that, so we can't really answer that question. So when someone comes to me asking about candida overgrowth, I try to find, okay, why are you asking this question? What are the symptoms that you're trying to understand that you have that may lead you to search this question? Because I can bet you we can probably find the answers to those symptoms without having you to undergo some sort of crazy stool testing paid by a company that you have to pay out of pocket that's not going to give you the results that you need. What about low acid? So once again, when it comes to low acid, there are a couple of different reasons why you have low acid. And my job is to find the actual medical reason for that. We are not typically born with low acid. Sometimes there'll be conditions inside our gut, whether it's a condition called H. pylori, which can make your stomach acid be low. Maybe you are taking medications you don't realize, like antacids, that can make your stomach acid low. Or maybe you could have an autoimmune disease that could make your stomach acid low. And so your gut issues may not be due to low stomach acid, but your gut issues may be due to the cause of why you have low stomach acid. And my job as a GI doctor is to find out the true cause for that, because once I know the cause, then I can direct exactly what treatment we can do to get that taken care of for you. I will tell you, if someone tells you that the reason for your gut issues is low stomach acid, they are full of it. They don't know what they're talking about. If they tell you the reason why you have low stomach acid is this, that is what you want to get down, because low stomach acid, if you have that, is a symptom of something else. And our job is to find out what that symptom is, what that cause is, treat it so we can fix what's going on inside your gut. Sylvia, it's good watching. Good seeing you from Laredo. Thank you for watching. And Sally, thank you for watching from New Mexico, our neighbors up north. Guys, thank you for watching. So this is a great question that I got. So question number 2, let's talk about pain. So why do you have pain? Very common question. So let me talk about exactly what happens in your gut, or when we talk about pain, it's very important for me to know the location of that pain. And so I'm going to kind of go around your gut. So your gut is like one little picture frame right here. This is where your gut is. It starts off here on this right side in the cecum. From the cecum, it goes all the way across to the ascending colon, goes across the transverse, descending colon, and into the sigmoid area. So let's talk about the areas in your body that can help explain what's going on with pain. So your sigmoid colon, which is right here, right in your bottom left-hand corner right there, that's a very common issue for pain. People have diverticulitis, can have pain in that area. That's when you have pockets of your colon that are outpouching. Sometimes something can get in those pockets, cause inflammation to occur. You'll have pain, you'll have fever. That can be a very significant cause for pain. That sigmoid area, the left lower area, also is an area where you can have a lot of movement or twisting around the colon. So if you're constipated, that could be a very common area where having pain, because it takes longer for your stuff to get through those twists that are there. If we go further up right here, up in this top left area right here, this is your spleen. This is not a common location to have pain. However, you do have a tight turn here, and this tight turn can be a reason why you're having pain as things are going through. Sometimes things can slow down and maybe not go through all the way, and that turn can make it more difficult for pain to occur. Up across right here, you have what's called the transverse colon. So right here is still part of your colon, but this is also an area where your small intestine is and where your stomach is as well. And sometimes people have pain up here. It could be colon pain, so it could be constipation. It could be stomach pain, maybe an ulcer, or maybe it could be gas from your small intestine as well. And this could be an area where we can have pain, but also in this middle area right here is where the pancreas lies. And so your pain can be right here. Also, if you have gallbladder issues, which is typically on this right side, sometimes the pain can be right here as well in the middle, and that may be hard to figure out. Now, if we go across top right side right here, so top right here is where your gallbladder is at. And if you have pain on that right side with your gallbladder, typically will be pain after eating, especially after you eat a heavy meal. Also on this left side, you have your liver. So contrary to popular belief, your liver typically does not cause a lot of pain. And so I know a lot of people tell me they have pain on their liver, but for most people, the liver does not cause pain, or it's a very overestimated cause for pain that could be there. But also in this area, you have another turn in your colon, and that could be a very common reason why people can have pain, having trouble with constipation. That stool can get caught up in that turn and make that pain occur there as well. Also in this area, you have your bile duct. So if you have a gallstone, and your stomach and your small intestine lie in this area as well. And as you're going down here as well, this bottom right half right here, this is the connection of where your colon meets your small intestine. So sometimes patients who have Crohn's disease can have pain there. That's also where your appendix is at as well, but that appendix pain will radiate to your belly button. That's typically how we know what's going on there. So when it comes to pain, I try to localize exactly where it's at. If it's on the bottom left-hand side, I'm thinking somewhere in the sigmoid colon. If it's up here, maybe it's your gallbladder, maybe it's your stomach, maybe it's your colon. If it's your right lower side, it could be the connection between your small intestine and your colon as well. And so that allows me to help figure out what's going on based on location. Now, based on that, we can further classify, is your pain related to eating? Is it related to pooping? Does certain foods make it better or worse? Does taking a deep breath in make it worse? Does movement make it worse? These are things that I use in my clinical judgment to allow me to determine if this could be a cause for pain or not. And so that's kind of a doctor's approach to dealing with pain. I can tell you, pain is such a difficult thing for us to know exactly what's going on, because it can be due to a lot of different reasons. It may be constipation. It could be an ulcer. It could be gallbladder issues. It could be nothing. And so there are different tests that we use, whether it's a CAT scan, an ultrasound, blood testing, maybe taking a look with a scope. And all of these tests are complementary to allow me to fully paint the picture for what is going on when it comes to pain. All right. So Gary, I want to put your question on. It's a very good question. Gary, I was diagnosed with IBS. I was wondering about what foods I should eat or avoid. Any tips for everyday living? Thanks. Absolutely, Gary. Great question. So here's the approach when it comes to IBS. So I try to tell my patients this: IBS is not necessarily only a dietary disease. What I mean by that, there's a lot of reasons why people have IBS. Changes in your gut microbiome, changes in the food that you eat, stress. Sometimes it could be leaky gut. Sometimes it could be an actual problem going on with how quickly things go through or how slow things go through, whether it's motility. And so it could be multifactorial. However, having said that, when you look at the evidence for the best diets that are out there when it comes to IBS, two big diets play a big role. Number one is a plant-based diet. A plant-based diet has been shown in clinical trials to help out when it comes to IBS. But more importantly, number two is a diet that's low in FODMAPs. So FODMAPs are particular carbohydrates that are very difficult to digest. And for a lot of our patients, this can cause a lot of gut issues to occur. And so if you're interested in some of those dietary tips for IBS, I have a lot of YouTube videos and Facebook videos on that you can go to. But in general, a low FODMAP diet tends to be the best diet when it comes to IBS. The thing we always recommend when it comes to a FODMAP diet is you try to have a nutritionist on board, because it can be a very difficult diet to do on your own. There are apps that are out there that work. There are other pamphlets that are out there, but trying to do a low FODMAP diet can be a very difficult thing for patients to do. And this is the number one reason why people fail. But also number two, being on a low FODMAP diet long term is not good for you, because we do not want to restrict your foods and prevent you from eating anything you want. We want to eliminate those food triggers and then slowly increase the amount of foods that you're not intolerant to allow you to eat what you want. I have found my approach is to try to really go to a plant-based approach, and based on that, we can tailor exactly what are going to be the best options for you guys. Great question, Gary. All right. Question number 3 I got from a patient this week. It said, "Hey, Dr. Islam, I have a hiatal hernia. What do I do?" Great question. So what is a hiatal hernia? This is when part of the stomach goes above where it should be. So we have this little organ called the diaphragm. And the diaphragm is a very thin membrane that separates the stomach, which is below, and the esophagus, which is above. And that thin membrane keeps the stomach where it's at. When you have a hiatal hernia, you develop a hole like this in the diaphragm, and part of the stomach goes above where it should be. So the stomach is above the diaphragm. If that happens, you can have symptoms of heartburn, reflux, regurgitation, or sometimes people can get things stuck inside that hiatal hernia and make it difficult for things to get down all the way. These are the indications to get a hernia possibly fixed. Now, just because you have a hernia does not mean it needs to be fixed. And so I try to stress this to my patients. Just because you have a hernia, you don't have to necessarily do anything about that, because typically a hiatal hernia is not one that you're going to see. The reason to get it fixed is if you have bad reflux, if you have bad heartburn, bad regurgitation, or foods get stuck, and we cannot fix that either with diet and or lifestyle. Those are typically the indications for us to help out when it comes to getting a hernia fix. Tanya, it's good seeing you from Hobbs. Nate, it's good seeing you guys. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for watching on today's live video. All right. So question number 4, COVID and the 15%. So I actually was on the news last week locally about what is going to happen whenever we've had a week long of COVID-19, and if 15% of the population or the hospital population has COVID-19. So we hit that mark recently, and what that means basically is that if you've had Governor Abbott here in Texas declared that if we had COVID-19, the population in the hospital was greater than 15% for 7 straight days for a week, there's going to be a possibility of shutting down elective cases. And in essence, that is the potential what could be happening now here in Texas, at least in Lubbock. We've had COVID-19. at a high rate for at least 7 days, and it's getting higher and higher and higher. The important thing beyond just the minimizing of the elective cases is just the prevalence of how high COVID-19 has become. So right now, as you can see, it's very cold right now. And with the cold, we're going to get more and more viruses coming on that typically come on at this time of the year. Flu, cold, RSV, things like that. When you add that to the patients who have COVID-19, and we have a very significant patient population right now in the hospital who has COVID-19, what that means is a couple of things. Number one is that those patients who routinely come to the hospital for the normal flu, pneumonias, things that occur during winter, we may not have the beds available for those patients, which means you may have to go elsewhere. Number two, if the hospital is full of COVID-19 patients, that means routine care like getting your gallbladder removed or getting that hip surgery done or getting that colonoscopy, or let's say you get into a car wreck and you need surgery. Those things are going to be more difficult because we don't have enough room in the hospital for those routine medical care. But also number three, more and more people, especially healthcare workers, are going to be exposed to COVID-19. And if they're exposed, there's a chance they can get sick or even have to be quarantined as well, which depletes the healthcare sources that we have currently available. And the more healthcare people that are out of work, the less likely there's going to be for us to take care of you guys. And so do what you can to obviously protect yourself. If you haven't, go outside and wear a mask, wash your hands, practice social distancing, and try to help educate anyone that can be. It's okay if you don't necessarily believe what is going on. That's fine. I understand that. But I can tell you it's real, and we want to protect those of us who maybe could be exposed or at higher risk of developing complications that can occur later on for those people who may get COVID-19, get really, really sick from that as well. All right. So that's my thing on COVID-19 and the 15%. Margaret, it's good watching. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Perfect. All right. Next question. What's the deal with gluten? Oh, yes. I love gluten questions because I'm going to tell you the truth on what you need to know about gluten. So when it comes to gluten, a couple of different things you have to know. Number one, gluten inherently is not evil. Okay? It is not evil. Inherently, it's not bad for you. Inherently, it is not something that's going to hurt you. And so don't be scared of the big bad gluten because it's not that big of a deal. The only time we should worry about gluten is number one, if you have an actual sensitivity to gluten, or number two, if you have celiac disease. Two completely different entities. Let's talk about that. So celiac disease. This is an actual autoimmune disease in which when your body ingests gluten, it attacks the body, destroying the villi in the small intestine. They're typically like this, cuts them off so they become like this. And whenever you don't have any villi, you can't absorb nutrients. And so you have diarrhea, bloating, you have anemia, low blood count, your vitamins are low. You become very, very, very sick. This is an actual autoimmune disease in which your body attacks itself. And there are two ways for us to diagnose this. One is with a blood test, and one is with taking a look with an endoscopy. In my opinion, you need both of those two tests to help confirm if you have celiac disease. And the issue about celiac disease is that because it's autoimmune, it does lead to long-term problems, blood count being low, loss of vitamins and minerals, and also lymphoma as well. Very different from gluten sensitivity. So gluten sensitivity is completely different. This is not an autoimmune disease. This is not a disease that's going to lead to any long-term complications. This is a problem in which whenever you ingest gluten, you may have symptoms very similar to celiac, diarrhea, bloating, indigestion, but you will not develop anemia. You will not develop vitamin deficiencies, and you will not develop lymphoma. But interesting enough, there was a clinical study in which they took patients who had gluten sensitivity. They actually sparsed out the food that they ate. They give one set of patients actual gluten, and they give the other set of patients foods that are high in FODMAPs. Those patients that actually had gluten, that were gluten sensitive, did better than those patients who actually had FODMAPs who claim to be gluten sensitive. And so instead of saying you are gluten sensitive, what I would suggest for you to do, so you actually may have an intolerance to the foods that are high in FODMAPs. And that's the case, I would recommend you speak to a GI doctor about this, or look at my YouTube videos as well, where I have a lot of videos on things for a FODMAP diet as well. Heath, thank you for wearing your mask, and thank you for being on the live video. I wear my mask everywhere as well. It is a pain in the bottom to wear it in the gym, but I will tell you what's worse is getting COVID or getting somebody sick with COVID for sure. Absolutely. And so thank you for doing that. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you watching today's live video. I don't see any more questions, so thank you for watching live on the video. So number one, if you want to be featured on a Poop Tip Tuesday, comment down below or send me a message or send me an email, and I will be able to read that and hopefully have you on the next Poop Tip Tuesday. And number two, if you want, I would encourage you to subscribe to my weekly newsletter. We can get great tips just like this one, and you can also send me your questions, and I can hopefully answer them on a future Poop Tip Tuesday. But I hope you guys have a happy and healthy day. Take care, everyone.